Beautiful sunny morning, it's just before 8 o'clock, and we are down in Devizes, working for an angling club down here. This is the second day we're here, and yesterday we did the lake just up there, called Ellis's Pool. It's a good name. And there is lots of carp in there, fairly typical. There's lots of carp and bream, big fish, like bigger than sort of £3. And lots of juveniles using fine mesh and electrofishing. Found lots and lots of juveniles and not a lot in between. And that is totally down to quite heavy cormorant predation. One of the members here said that he was down here on Christmas Day and there was 14 cormorants. These lakes aren't very big. You imagine 14 cormorants fishing on here. They're not here for fun. They're not here for a holiday or to chill out. They're here to eat fish. So fairly typically we're finding big fish, because it's otter fence, so it's good, decent otter fence. It's fairly typical club water. The club do own the site, which is great, so they've done an awful lot of decent work maintaining it. The banks are very undercut. Again, all these things are fairly typical of what we find. Bank erosion and cormorant predation are two huge things which quite often get overlooked in favour of just stocking fish. It's a good job they haven't continually restocked in here, because the fish have got a parasite which, when they're stressed out, it's going to affect their growth and their conditioning without a doubt. But if the fish are in good condition and there's food available and plenty of oxygen and space, which are always the key things, then the fish will respond and they'll do a lot better. And we find that hands down everywhere we go. And we go to these places and every single place you go is different. So one day you're at an angling club that is suffering with predation, next minute you're at a 100-acre water where no one wants you to touch anything, because the anglers love the fishing and they think you're going to go in there and ruin it. But at the end of the day, you have to identify issues, and every fishery can be improved and every fishery has issues or just needs maintenance, really. But this particular lake here, this is more of the carp lake. So today we are catching fish out of here, and we are moving any sort of bream up into the top lake. They'll all have the same parasite, so moving fish around the site here is much safer than bringing fish on from outside sources. Basically, if you imagine these fish are, you can turn them around all the time. You don't have to overly worry about the parasite, simply because if you tick in all the other boxes with your fishery management and keeping on top of everything, then they can quite happily live with these parasites. Same with infection or anything. If you're limiting stress, that's the key factor. Everything's linked to stress, so if you can limit that, then you wouldn't even know half the time that they've got these parasites, just by visually looking at them. So today is netting this lake. There's lilies and snags and bits and pieces and undercut banks, but we'll do our best to catch lots of fish and then see how we get on. So when you've got heavy cormorant predation, you need to limit the amount of stress that the fish are going through. A lot of people seem to put these fake islands in, calling them fish refuges, and I think two things for me. One, they look pretty ugly, and also when they're sat in the middle of lakes, raised, with cages underneath, all right, the fish might spend time under there, but you're not going to catch them, and they're going to be stressed under there anyway. That's an environment, you're creating a fake environment where, yes, all right, you're putting something in which potentially they can hide under. People have different mesh sizes, so little fish can swim in them, but then the fish are in there as stressed. They don't want to be in there, but they will go in there for refuge. My argument's always been the same. I'd rather spend time and money and make the margins of any lake more habitable for the fish, because the benefits are multiple. You're increasing the habitat for one, for everything, not just the fish, but you're also massively improving your bank stabilisation. So if you do it properly, you can eliminate bank erosion, and you're providing, and it's very, very good for the water quality. And we do preach about it all the time because it's really important. It's before you're stocking fish, you want to look at what's going on with your fish and ways to improve the lake itself. And again, clubs especially, there was a lot of the people, oh no, we want instant, we need more fish, but there's lots of reasons why I wouldn't stock fish. You can turn around, and we've got a lovely portfolio of clients that we've helped turn their fisheries around from being fairly poor fishing to very prolific fishing, not by stocking more fish, but by helping them learn and understand more viable ways to improve things, really. And I'm hoping this will be one of those where, although there's a lot of fish here, there's a lot of potential. There is recruitment, the water quality's fine, but rather than just buy more fish, which is probably just going to get eaten by the cormorant, it's about increasing the amount of space and food available. And again, some purists will say, oh no, you shouldn't feed the fish, you shouldn't do this. Well, where does it end? Should we not put fences up then? You know, should we not do anything? Should we just leave everything completely wild? In that case, fine. That's, you know, it's not a problem. We've got fisheries we work at which are completely wild, that will never be fenced on private estates, and they've still got very big fish in, but it's heartbreaking when you go and find a few dead carcasses every now and then because the otters are on there. So there's a happy medium, and every single lake's different, and every environment is different than we work in, you know. So you have to work with the client to achieve what you can. A lot of people don't like the fact when you turn up and you would advise people to feed the fish, or, you know, take a tree out, or drain the pond, or do anything, and all they want is more fish, or just leave it as it is. Well, you know, you can't if you leave things as they are. You're going to have rises and falls in populations and in weather conditions. You know, the weather dictates that as well. Climate plays a huge part, especially nowadays. Algal blooms and weed and all this, that and the other. Oxygen fluctuating because of the you know, no one's doing anything. So everywhere's different, and that's the key thing. You know, quite a lot of the time, once you've netted lakes and had a look at the stock, yes, I'll always be like, well, okay, they could do with additional food. Classic example of a club water like this, where I think they've got 300 odd members, but there's very few people fishing. Even in the summer, it's not busy, so there's very little bait going in. You have a contrast from that to a busy day ticket water, where every swim's full all the time, and there's plenty of food going in. Anglers' baits, you know, they are chucking plenty of food in. That's why carp fisheries are fairly easy, because carp anglers tend to put a bit more bait in than pleasure anglers and match fishermen. So there's always plenty of food going in, which is why quite often when you're netting a lot of these modern carp fisheries which are full of fish, you're also catching lots of quality silvers, big bream, big tench, big perch, big everything, because it all has a knock-on effect, and that food availability is key. So we do promote supplementary feed, and near enough everywhere we go, simply because what we see is the fish just respond so well to it, and they're in much better condition. They can put up with more stress. They can put up with more repeat captures. You know, if they're getting caught and they're in good condition and they're happy, and that, you know, they're physically fit, when they get returned, they'll get caught again. Their recovery rate's a lot quicker. Whereas if they're knackered little ropey things, which are struggling for space and food, they might not get caught again for weeks. And again, your low stocked pits, your syndicates, your very low stocked, you know, secret squirrel type lakes, that's fine. But for me, we have, you know, like I say, we don't just work at one type of venue. We're working at different types of fishery for different types of clients. So, and I think that's why we can offer a good service, simply because we're doing it every day and we just get to see everything. So you can adapt your methods and your approach to every job to suit the needs of each individual client, which varies from, like I say, private estates to clubs to busy day tickets to little canals and you know, vast reservoirs with very few fishing. But you're always learning. Every day's a school day in this job. So this will be interesting. There's an awful lot of scaffold poles around here which was put in to try and tie the banks up. So it'll be dead interesting for me to get my waders on, get in there and kick under the banks to see if it's worked. I don't think it probably has, but there we are. But yeah, nice lake. We'll see how we get on. I do repeat it all the time, but I'll show you why I don't use metal. Because when you look at these bit of backfilling, you get to little points where on here, I mean, they've obviously spent a lot of money years ago putting scaffold bars in. This is why it doesn't work. So you've got this section here, and they're just basically putting scaffold bars across and backfilling with stuff. And the thing is, when you actually put your foot in here, it's very soft because it's just backfilling. So this is soft. Now the thing is, now if you look here, look, so I put these in years ago to try and stop bank erosion, which clearly isn't happening. And then underneath here, I can get my foot. So I'm trying to do this with waders and gloves on. right under there. Look. I can't reach the back of that. Stick my leg under there, I can get it back to here. So basically, hang on, let me try. It's better. So the bank goes back to here already. So this is undercut here, and that needs addressing because it's only going to get worse. What I'm stood in now is just soft muck. It goes under here to put some sort of matting down. We see this a lot. If I stand the other side of it now, I think it's deep this side of it. So now on the other side of it now, in the water, and I can get my leg underneath this anyway. So it's not really working, to be fair. You can see under there, you're never going to stop the water like that. See? You're just not going to stop it. It's doing nothing. So the bank's still undercut under there, all under there. And as you can see, it's not the club's fault. You know, years ago they've done this. Obviously it cost them a lot of money in scaffolding and just backfilling, and I just don't see it working. Never ever see it working. It looks fine to start with, but then this always happens. And I stick to my guns on the fact that if you come along here with a little digger, you can do it by hand, it's a lot labour intensive. Chip away at this, sharp spade or a little machine, rough it all up, get rid of all this. Plant. This, I don't like juncus. I'm quite fussy about it in my old age, but it works. What we do works. And then plant at 10-inch gaps on the water line, in the water, once you've re-established that bank. It's no good planting on there. A lot of people wouldn't even get in the water. They start plugging in here, or try and do it in here, waste of time. You've got to get rid of that. So you can see we've got plenty of net in the water, leaving big lanes for electrofishing. There is lilies in here and a few snags. So we've got 300 metres all over the lake, and we'll obviously pull these in later, but for now they're just acting like lanes for electrofishing. Obviously the gradient of the island always causes issues with the net riding up against it, so we give that a bit of a margin, then we can electrofish under there. Leave a boat's width to electrofish all up these channels, up the far end, and then come back and pull all the nets in. That way we get the best out of the day, and we catch as many fish as possible to give the best information we can.
No, you're the batsman. You overestimate everything.
That's just sugar, eggs, flour, and that's it.
What's in them? Kinder Hippos?
Kinder Hippos, Kinder Milk Bars, and basic blondie recipe, that's it.
And then you just make them as a
Normal cake.
normal cake, right? Yeah, okay.